welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It's your girl Kiki Reader, and we have a new book today. Now, this is a standalone. Yeah, I didn't have it in me to start the new series, so we'll start it later. So today's book is Karma, and it is by Nikki Sex. And the book is about a woman named Marcy. Marcy is about 34 years old. And she's a bartender in Las Vegas. She's homegrown, so she born and raised in Las Vegas. She came from like really, kind of religious, strict parents. So her father, of course, never wanted her to, work in a casino because it was the devil's playground. But she went through a lot of stuff in life, and listen, she's got to take care of her child, so that's where she's working. So the book opens up with her. She's at the Bellagio Hotel. That's where she works in Vegas. And she sees $100 bill on the floor. And she is so tempted to pick it up and keep it, because it would help her out. It's going to mean more to her than probably whoever it belongs to. And so she doesn't do that, though. She doesn't give into that. She actually, there was a large Texan guy that was in front of her. And he was the one that had dropped the money. And so she, tapped him on the shoulder and she gave it to him. And he, thanked her for it. And he was just like, he was shocked because he was like, most people would have just kept it, And so they had a little small, conversation, and it made her feel good, that she kind of override and she kind of stuck with her morals, So then that's when we kind of get a small background into Marcy's life. So Marcy was married to Trent at one point. She met him young. Trent's like this, blonde hair, blue eyed, nice looking guy, and she had been in love with him, and that's who she had a daughter with, and her daughter's name is Katie. And when she got with Trent, he wound up going to orthodontic school, and so she was supporting him this whole time going through school. And then as soon as he finished, he dumped her. And very soon after, he remarried to like this younger, like 25-year-old woman, just completely. But the awful thing is he doesn't he doesn't try to have a relationship with the daughter, Katie. It's always a lot of broken promises and things like that. So he's like, we don't like him, okay? Already don't like him. So that was about 3 years ago when that marriage ended. And so she's working. So after the incident with the Texan, she's working and everything. Up walks Andre Chevalier, and he's a Frenchman. And he asked her, is it okay if I tell you what I see? So I'm thinking here like, okay, is he like some soothsayer or something? And so she's like, okay. And so he's like, he can tell, she's a mother and that she's a divorcee. And he was watching the interaction that she had with the Texan from the beginning, where she saw the $100 bill and until she gave it to him. And so he told her, I could see the war in your face, that whole, good and evil person. And so he says, because you chose, not to keep it and to give it back to the person it belonged to, he was like, he offered her employment with him. He's like, I have a couple of my housekeepers. They're going back to France, I guess, for quite a few months. And he's like, and I'm going to need the help. So he doesn't normally really hire outside of the people that he knows, which are normally a lot of, French people from back home. But that was just a true test of her character. And so he was like, I would like to have that woman employed by me, but he gives her the card, his card, and then he lets her know that he's gonna have one of his employees bring her a contract so she can kind of see, he believes she's gonna say yes, but he's still gonna send an employee, with the contract paperwork to see if it's something she would want to do. And so he also has so I'm thinking like he's a couples therapist or something, because a couple came to him and stuff like that, and he's clearly, very intuitive. So I'm thinking like, okay, maybe he's like a couples therapist. So he also has like a ulterior motive with hiring her, because his security guy, his name's Mark Thompson, and he's kind of been celibate for a couple of years since his wife has died. And Andre just thinks that's, you should have a mate, and he's like, it is not natural for you to be celibate. So he's kind of thinking like maybe, Marcy will be a good fit for Mike. So we shall see. So he had one of his employees. He literally had him come. So he had one of his employees bring that contract to Marcy that evening. And so of course, after she spoke with him, the guy spoke so in such high regard of Mr. Chevalier that she was just like, you know what? He had made it almost impossible for her to say no, because first of all, he was offering her. They didn't say how much the salary was, but it was like an incredible salary that he was going to give her. On top of the fact, he was friends with the owners of the Bellagio, Chevalier was, and so they worked it out to where he had already had it worked out for her to where the owner was going to give her 3 months where he would hold her position, so that way she wasn't losing anything, because it was kind of like that fear of, if I jump out there and then this don't work out, I don't have a job to come back to. So that helped her make the decision, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And so she went ahead and she signed the contract. The next day she calls Mr. Chevalier and she lets him know that, she'll be accepting the job, even though he knew that because she signed the contract, but I'll be ever. So he tells her, okay, send me your address and I'll come pick you up. And she's like, no, I'll take a cab, because her vehicle wasn't working. And he said, no, I come get you. So he came and got her. He pulls up in a Bugatti. I'm going to say this wrong. It's Veyron, Veyron, Veyron. I don't know how to say it. But it's a Bugatti. So we already know that had to be a work of art. So on the trip to his house, they speak of love and different things like that. And he's, pretty open with her. And he tells her that he is in love with a married woman. And he's actually friends with the husband. So the husband knows that he loves his wife. And he's like, and the husband might even love me too. I don't know. But it seems to be a situation of unrequited love, which is just so horrible. It's the worst, I feel, of all the loves. That unrequited. It's just the worst. Because you feel all this emotion for someone and they don't feel it. And it's that idea of, how can I feel this strongly for someone and they don't feel that way back from me? It's just the worst. It really is. So, even though he, pretty much can't have that woman, he still feels as if he's better to have loved her, just to love someone is a beautiful experience. And so he feels as if, even if I'm not able to have her, he's still happy with the idea that he was able to love her. And I'm like, okay, that's deep, So they get to the house and he introduces her to the kitchen staff. Of course, like I said, they're French. Sweet people, wonderful meet and greet. And then he takes her to go meet Mike Thompson in security. And so apparently Mike looks, he has like a really strong resemblance to Jason Statham. And so immediately Marcy just bursts out into laughter. Like, she thinks it's the funniest thing because she just can't believe how much he looks like the movie star. And so he, of course, he feels an immediate attraction to her. He's already done like he's done background because, I mean, he's security. So he owns a security firm and tech. He's into tech and everything like that. So he's very well off. He only has Mr. Chevalier and I think one casino, and it's probably the Bellagio, I'm thinking, as a client, and that's it. But he's like set, you know. So he's like, sometimes people open up a little bit more if you put them in a more relaxed environment. So he's like, you know what, let's go, let's have lunch, and we'll do a little golf. So they go to play putt-putt golf. And on the way there, they have nice, pretty good conversation. Marcy finds herself, enjoying being around him and everything like that. She had told Andre in the car, I meant to mention this, that, she doesn't date. She just doesn't do men. Because when she first met Andre at the bar, she had told him that. Because she thought he was trying to, like, hit on her. And he really wasn't. Not that he didn't find her attractive, but he wasn't trying to hit on her. And so she has this thing about not wanting to date. She just thinks she's horrible at relationships. So she still has that same thought process, but she is enjoying being around Mike. Why am I calling him Mark? His name's Mike. Being around Mike, and it's a little daunting for her. So when they're done doing the golfing, she goes back to the locker and she sees on her phone where she's missed the call, and there's a message that Katie's been hurt and she's in the hospital. So of course she's freaking out. Mike's right there. He sees her and he's like, I got you. I'll take you to the hospital. And so while she's on the way there, she calls Trent. She can't get through. Apparently the school had tried to contact him as well and couldn't get through. And so then she has to basically threaten the receptionist, listen, either you get him on the phone or I'm going to come up there and I'm going to make a whole scene. And then that gets the job done. And so, of course, the whole conversation, he's thinking she's calling for money. And she's like, your daughter's hurt. She's going to ask for you. That is why I'm calling you. She's like, I have never asked you for money. So why do you think I will start now? So we see right here, like, he's just a horrible human being. And so she hangs up the phone. And, that was the end of that. Mike, of course, is hearing this interaction and his blood is boiling. Like, this is a douche. You know what I mean? Like, this dude is just horrible. Like, that's his thought process. So they get to the hospital, before they get there, because they're on their way there, and that's when Marcy kind of talks to him about, she starts to blame herself, and he got mad. He's like, well, why are you blaming yourself? And she's like, well, I wanted children and he didn't, and so she had gone off of birth control to get pregnant. Now, now I kind of see why you blame yourself, because you kind of brought your child into a situation that, I'm sorry, I know she wasn't having a good life with this man. Like, it's not like he started off very charming, absolutely, but he was doing things at the same time to let you know that he probably wasn't the best person. So you were so blinded by how much you loved him, you didn't even pay attention to the other stuff, and you were just trying to hold on to this shit, And so you brought this kid into it, and he didn't want the child. You knew that. It doesn't give him the right to treat the kid this way. She's a sweet little girl, but I kind of see why she does blame herself, because she is a little, you kind of did that. Not to try and put full blame, but at the same time, I can't really just say he is horrible. Like, he is a selfish prick. Like, that isn't not true.